Here's another video of the bad sectors being created. You can see here the hard drive light is solid, whether 3 lights or not. And let's take a look at this graph. This is a sign that it's happening. The blue line at the top is, it's difficult to focus this, but the blue line is the queue for the disk, how many actions are pending. So if there's a queue, if the blue line is up at the top, like it is almost all the time, and then drops down and then goes back up at the top, that means there's some disk actions waiting to happen. But when the criminals do this, the kernel takes over, so there's no disk action according to this, because this is just showing the user space disk actions. So what happens is you get these spikes. You get a spike in the green, then back down, but the blue stays solid. Sometimes you get a spike in the green and the blue goes back down, but it immediately goes back up. When the hard drive's working, you don't have this. When the hard drive is actually working, you have the blue going up and the green going up at the same time, and then the green going down and the blue going down. In other words, if there's a queue for disk actions, the disk is then actually doing reading or writing. And then when it's finished, the queue is finished and the reading and writing is finished. So the queue should not ever be like this. If it goes down to nothing and there's still a queue, there's a problem. There's bad sectors. There's something in the kernel eating up all the hard drive time. So you can tell it's blatantly obvious when you have a graph like this. What you should have is you should have nice solid green areas, and then after, the green should finish and the blue should actually finish too. The blue will be above the green because there will be a queue sometimes when there's a lot of disk activity, but it won't be like this. It won't be these erratic spikes. When you see spikes like this is exactly what's happening with reading the bad sectors, because the disk is kind of in a bit of a war. It's trying to aggressively read for the kernel, but then it kind of eventually decides to jump back and try some of the user mode reads, which succeed fine. Then it goes back to trying to read those bad sectors in the kernel. So this is you don't really have to look at which processes are reading what. The actual nonsense that's going on in the kernel, it's reading probably the page file. They can create bad sectors onto their files. So you can see the nonsense the criminals are doing, and the light is still solid here. It's likely this is going to lead to a blue screen scenario. I believe, yeah, it looks like the system is on the verge of blue screening right now, because it's been such a long time that the kernel's been trying to read, and I cannot access any of the other processes on the system. There's a Java installation up. There gets something's coming back here, but no, you can see it was just one spike of green. I can't even browse different folders on the computer. It's that hung. So this is a case in point classic understanding of what they'll do. They'll spend hours creating the bad sectors, and then when they want to harass me, they'll have the drive read the bad sectors. And since I have still yet to clean them completely out of my computer, because it's a very involved project. When somebody's in the kernel, a lot of developers and experienced computer people will say your computer is finished. There's nothing you can do except go offline and try to get them out of the kernel. And if you can't do that, then it's saying your computer is finished. There's nothing you can do. So I'm slowly actually going to battle this out in the kernel. But you can see the criminals get scared and desperate. And what do? Then they create the bad sectors, and they play this game. Because they're desperate little scared criminals, so they have to hide behind this kind of nonsense, thinking they can play dirty psychology, and they're playing, and I hear them talking to my ears the whole time too, so it's blatantly obvious what they're doing to me. But for other people, it's not so obvious, because when somebody's using a radio communicable device, you don't see or hear all that radio communication like the target of it does. So sometimes people can be being harassed, and they, like me, are hiding all the harassment. I don't talk about it all day, every day, but it's always going on. I always am aware of it, but it's not productive to my life to always talk about it. Now, here's an interesting thing. The queue has actually dropped for a significant period of time. It looks like we may... no, I wouldn't call it a recovery. No, it's back. I think it was just a coincidence that just enough reads were allowed to get the queue down. Yeah, you can see it's doing this spiky behavior, which is exactly the bad sector behavior that the criminals will use when they're trying to hose the system. Yeah, even the folder browsing is finished. Oh, my email client, my development studio. Here's my music player. Can't even close it. I have a Java installation going. Well, it's nice to actually have the exact activity of the criminals documented. Here's a look at a big. We're talking about a big period. I mean, they're really just reading the bad sectors. At the same time, they're also using some devices they have inside of me that induce carpal tunnel. And while they're barking this whole "I want him gay, he's the gay guy," blah 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 blah. I mean, it's just a bunch of weird homosexual criminals. I'll tell you that much. They're related to the mafia, and you can imagine Freemasonry, Illuminati, all these stupid organizations and groups. But their crimes are blatantly obvious. Again, no person in the computer field would look at this and not know that there's something very highly suspicious going on, especially since I can just reboot right now and fix the bad sectors using a USB drive with a special tool that scans the drive and fixes the bad sectors. And after I fix them, this nonsense won't be able to occur. But while I was at the mosque tonight doing my prayers, they spent several hours using their remote control devices to create bad sectors in a very specific region of the disk so they could very specifically harass me at the exact moment they wanted when I returned. So this is their way of handling assets, which is really just harassing people and committing crimes against them. They're criminals. The FBI has a lot of these surveillance tools. These are mostly stolen from the FBI, and the FBI has to use them to do surveillance. They're not supposed to do harassment. Although the FBI has pretty much blurred the line and turned into a bunch of criminals now, because a lot of them are of the same mafia that's harassing me. The FBI has been infiltrated by the mafia for quite a while. 2 generations almost. So there's a lot of FBI agents using a tactic that we call managed aggression. Managed aggression is harassing people, provoking them, but doing it in a clandestine way, so that like a coward who doesn't want to get caught. So you literally harass and torture somebody covertly and see if you can get them to react and do something that you can use as evidence against them. This is a corrupt FBI investigation tactic. It's called managed aggression, and you can read about it on the internet. The FBI is certainly partaking in this illegal tactic. It's not a legitimate intelligence tactic. This is a mafia tactic. This is straight out of the mafia's playbook. So here you can see my Outlook's crashing now. Probably because the disk has stopped responding for so long. You can see the whole system's going belly up right now. Now it looks like they're playing games in a non-page file area. Because if this was the page file, we would have gotten a page fault by now. If the kernel can't read a page out of the page file after a long enough time that it needs to page in for a driver, it will crash. It will throw a page fault. That hard disk is pretty much a guarantee for the kernel when you're using paging. So you can imagine that this, if it hasn't crashed by now, it's probably not actually going to crash. I'm probably going to actually have to reboot the system to recover it here. Oh, now look at this. The system is back online. Oh, look at my graphics control center has crashed for ATI, which is extremely unusual. And now the system is working again flawlessly. You see that this is what the graph is supposed to look like. You're supposed to have a big solid green area, and the blue line will occasionally drop down to nothing, and so will the green at that point. There will be no queue. The important part is the blue line. That blue line is the queue, how much is waiting to process. When that drops down to 0, there shouldn't be much in terms of the green spikes. So now my disk is fine. Now I can probably use my computer. However, since the disk hasn't been able to read for so long, there's going to be some serious timeouts. Oh, and now they're taking control of it again. You can see, there they go with the kernel driver again. Yeah, you see these spikes, it's back again. They gave a little bit of time for the computer to do a little bit of processing. And now we can analyze the criminals have gone right back to their prior technique. It could have actually finished reading all the bad clusters. Keep in mind, bad sectors will eventually read. These ones that they're creating are readable, but it takes a long time. This isn't a 1 minute type of operation. This is take maybe what should take a few seconds to read will take several minutes, which is why it can cause the page fall off, and why it sometimes takes a while for any problems to show up. You can see all the processes crashing, and then they released it. Now, did you see the psychology behind that? As soon as the processes started crashing, Outlook and the Catalyst ATI Control Center, then they immediately released it for a few seconds and went back to hacking it. I mean, it can't get any more obvious that I have mafia criminals hacking my laptop, because this is not legitimate. This is criminal nonsense. And here it is. Here is the kernel data in-page error that I was saying was going to happen. So we can conclude that I have mafia criminals in my laptop, and it's blatantly obvious to anybody who knows anything about how the kernel and the paging works and the hard drive works on a computer. It's pretty obvious that this is extremely bizarre behavior and is completely evidence that is consistent with criminals playing games with your laptop and trying to control you and trying to control it, because there's nothing destructive here. These bad sectors can be repaired, but it just takes a long time. Alright, I'm going to sign out now. This is pretty good. I'm going to be placing this on YouTube at a later time. This is an important video. It really gets the basis of this entire attack vector down.